Okay, now that we've gone over the general information about levels of stress, I want to talk to you about something else that I've discovered. It's what I call the ready for fight or flight response. Now, I discovered this because, as I've told you before, and as you've learned in the previous modules, that we need to really reduce the amount of floor that we're missing because we've lived in constant stress to this point in our life. And so I've been working on that. How have I been working on it? I've been using, it's a free app. I pay for it because I like to have more choices, called Insight Timer. And on the Insight Timer, there are guided meditations. And so I've thought, well, I need to learn how to relax my body, and I need to learn how to train it to not be ready for fight flight all the time. So I started to do meditations. And as I started to do meditations, what I found is that I could get my body super relaxed. And then one of two things would happen. Either I would notice lying in my bed, I usually do this at night or in the middle of the night if I'm not sleeping, headphones in, I'm laying down, head on a pillow on my back. And I would start to notice this like really subtle tension in my neck, my shoulders, and my upper back. I also noticed that when I first started doing relaxation, I would hold my chin like this. Right. So I'd be holding tension in my chin without even being aware of it. So as I practiced this relaxation, I noticed that I could be fully relaxed, and then gradually I'd be pulling back into a place of tension. So I'm noticing that. And I also noticed that if I'm able to get myself fully relaxed, I get to a point where I just can't stand it. And it usually, when I started doing this at the beginning, it was maybe about 10 to 15 minutes in where I would just like want to run and scream like the house was on fire. So I either would notice subtle tension where I'm still holding on and not letting go, or I'd let it go and then it'd come back without me aware, or I get to that relaxed state and I just want to scream and fight. So I thought, okay, this is a habit. It's a habit based on not having safety at night during sleeping time. So I'm safe now. Let me start to really learn how to train my body to relax now that I'm safe. And I think it's been, I'm 54, so it's been 52 years of really strong reinforcement that at nighttime, not feeling safe, I wouldn't let myself relax. And I didn't know I was doing this. That's the key. So if you think about yoga class or meditation, or a therapist may have asked you to get in your breath, and then somewhere in that process of learning to relax and get in your body, there's this panic. It's like a it's a body response, super panic. So we usually then like go, that's it. I don't want any more. I'm going to quit this. And we do. And I've been guilty of that many, many times. But what I've been practicing is staying a minute longer, staying 2 minutes longer. And so now I've gotten myself to where I can do it for about 20 minutes, depending on the day. And sometimes I still have had it and I'd only do it for a minute or two longer. Sometimes it's only a 5-minute meditation, but it's a practice. And the more we practice and the more we train our body to understand that we're not in danger, the better it gets. So I think that I've already mentioned before that I discovered some research from a neuropsychologist in Scotland who said that in psychotherapy sessions, they noticed that right when they asked somebody to remember something traumatic, they would bring up the memory, start talking about it, and then you could see visually tension in the shoulders, neck, and face. So I went, aha, I'm onto something, right? So What they would do in those psychotherapy sessions is get people to pay attention to it. And when they paid attention to it, they weren't quite as triggered. So they were able to like stay aware, stay thinking clearly, and actually think through it instead of getting overwhelmed by all of the emotion. So I'm going on a different track to the same destination. And it feels good to know that a neuroscientist is actually doing the same work I am in my own body. So one of the takeaways from this is when you start learning to relax, when you start really asking yourself to do that, and you'll know when it's time, you'll know when you're ready to do that. When you start doing that, ask yourself to do 30 seconds longer than you think you can. Remember, this is a habit, so it's about training. So I want to tell you what happened last night, okay? Because I think that this is really applicable and something that you can practice too. And then I'm going to talk to you about how the levels of stress applies when we have trauma and we have a consistent habit of being in ready for fight flight. It's like before fight flight, it's being ready. I think most people who've had trauma are either in fight flight or ready for it. And we want to get out of that state and get into a level 3 where we can actually problem solve and continue to heal our triggers. So last night, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm awake. I spent until about 3:40 trying to breathe with my belly and get myself to relax and couldn't do it. So I popped in my Insight Timer app and started listening to a meditation. The meditation was about 20 minutes long. Well, it was 50 minutes long, and I could only handle about 20 minutes of it. And so at 20 minutes, I'm like, nope, not doing this. So I sat up, feeling very, very restless, could not find the right position to be in at all. So sat up, got a drink of water, ate a banana, and then thought, okay, I'm going to just lie down and breathe. Here's another thing. I've noticed that I stay in ready for fight flight if I'm trying to control my breath. So one of the things that we learn as we are trying to learn how to heal ourselves from trauma, and one of the things that you've learned from me is about this diaphragmatic breath. You have to practice it and you have to play with a little bit to see what helps you relax. So I've discovered that if I inhale with a controlled inhale and fill my belly with air, and then control the output, so I'm trying to go out as slow as I came in, I stay in ready for fight flight. However, if I bring it in, then release like this, right? Not necessarily with my mouth open, but bring it in and then just let it go. So it looks like this, right? So my let go is more of a just opening and just dropping the air out of my lungs instead of trying to do it in a controlled way. That helps me relax. And I discovered about a week ago that if I'm awake during the night or if I get woken up during the night, I can do that. Breathe in and then just let it go. And I can get myself back to sleep within 3 or 4 breaths. But last night was not like that. And one of the things I've noticed over time is that the closer we pay attention to what's happening to us when we're triggered, and this state of ready for fight flight, where there's tension in our jaw, our face, our neck, shoulders, for me, upper back, that ready for fight flight state, I forgot what I was saying. Oh, the more time we spend, what we usually do when we get into the ready for fight flight state is we want to get away from it. So we want to distract ourselves. We want to move away. We want to stop feeling what we're feeling. But what I've noticed is that within 3 or 4 breaths, I can go to sleep. It wasn't like that last night. So after probably struggling for, I don't know, about an hour, I rolled back over to my preferred sleeping position. And I stayed paying attention to my ready for fight flight state. And that's the thing too. When you pay attention to your ready for fight flight, it's really old stuff. That's why it's body based. So I roll over to my side. I'm paying attention to this feeling of anxiety and just wanting to thrash and not sleep. And I went, oh, wow. This is really this feels really young. It feels really, really young. Like these are feelings that I've had in my body since I was like tiny. So I just kind of spontaneously started talking to that little injured part of myself. I did it out loud. I did it without thinking about it. And I said something like this: oh, baby Tammy, I'm so sorry you went through those things, but I'm here now and you're safe. It's okay. So that's the words I said. Kind of spontaneously said it to that part of me that was suffering, right? Because if we're really young and those feelings are very old, who in the heck expects a child to sit still when they're that little with those feelings? So I just spontaneously came out with those words. And here's what happened. While I was speaking the words, one tear came out, and it felt like a cathartic tear. It felt like a tear from baby Tammy receiving that nurturing. Like it was an acknowledgement of comfort. And then sleep instantly. I went straight to sleep because when the tear came, the anxiety that I'd had in my body was also gone, right? So what is the conclusion I'm drawing from this? The conclusion I'm drawing from it is that when we're in ready for fight flight, we often criticize ourselves. Why can't I relax like other people? Why isn't what my therapist saying helps other people helping me? Why can't I calm down? Why is it that I can never slow down? Why is it? It's because the baby or the very young part of yourself needs comfort, needs attention, needs soothing that only you can give. Like nobody gave me the script last night. But as soon as I said what felt like the right thing, like the nurturing thing to say to that very young part of myself who was suffering, the anxiety left and I was able to get right to sleep. There's something I want to tell you about that too. Excuse me. There's something I want to tell you about that too, and that is that I've been practicing the techniques I'm teaching you for years. I've been safe in relationship for about 18 months. So I've been practicing getting deeper and deeper. I've been practicing healing triggers that come up, your triggers that happened in life the way you experience life, right? I wasn't ever safe to sleep at night. And I was always trying my hardest to be good and to do right and to never get in trouble. And in spite of that, I always got in trouble because the in trouble was about the other person being vicious and abusive toward me. Didn't have anything to do with my own behaviors, right? So I've been practicing healing triggers for a long time. And it could be that the reason that after about, I don't know, 2 months of really focusing on relaxing and noticing this tension and then being able to speak to my child part, it's because I've been practicing. So I don't want you to get discouraged if it doesn't work for you the first time. Before I got to this point, I was in bed listening to relaxation tapes for a few months on tapes. That tells you how old I am. I'm thinking cassette tapes. I was listening to relaxation meditations for a few months and noticing that my body did not want to lay there and relax, right? It's that ready for fight flight that every chronic PTSD survivor has. When we stop and we pay attention to it and we go, oh, what is this? And we focus on releasing it, it's just like happens in the neurobiologist therapy office. We can do this for ourselves, and the better we get at it, the better we get at understanding the core, what's really there. And then our body, because we have a natural ability to heal, will show us the right things to say, the right things to do to be corrective. Okay? So that's what I want you to learn about, to know about how I've discovered the ready for fight flight stage. What to do with it is start focusing on it, start noticing, because you're not really triggered when you're in ready for fight flight. That's the difference between ready for fight flight and being triggered. When you're in ready for fight flight, you're not actually triggered. You're just getting ready for being triggered. We can do something about that. Being triggered, we can't fix until after the fact, but we can fix that after the fact in a way that makes that trigger go away. I promise you, we're getting there. Actually, we're getting closer with every single week. But getting ready for fight flight is something you can pay attention to, because being ready for fight flight is not the same as being triggered. So let me turn my chair around and talk to you now about what I've written on the board. So I did already, I'm going to move this table a little bit. I did already talk to you about the levels of recovery. Level 1, level 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's the same as it was in the training that you just saw for this week. What's different is where ready for fight flight shows up. So I put it right after level 2, recovery, because it shows up when we're doing level 2 recovery behaviors, because our body says, wait a minute, it's not safe to let your guard down. And because it's not safe to let your guard down, when we start letting our guard down, our body says, no, 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 danger's coming. Get ready for danger. So that's what was happening to me when I was meditating at night. That we can pay attention to. That we can spend 30 seconds, maybe 10 seconds. I've talked to people who've had trauma who can only relax for, like, listen to meditation for about a minute. All right, then add 3 seconds, right? Do just a little at a time, knowing that every time we avoid a trigger, we reinforce it. Every time we avoid ready for fight flight, we reinforce it in our body. Every time we avoid the activities, level 2 activities that help us calm our body, because we don't want the trigger to happen, we don't want to end up in fight flight, and we're ready and that's close enough, will go away. What I'm telling you is the more we pay attention and come close to the ready for fight flight state, the better we'll be at staying in this level 3 problem solving when a trigger happens. And that's what we want. So the reason I also put ready for fight flight here right before level 4 is because if you think of level 4 as triggered, right? Think of level 4 as triggered. Then ready for fight flight is right before a trigger. So in our body, we stay ready for fight flight when we're telling our body to calm down. And that's why we hate meditation. That's why we hate sound baths. That's why we hate all of the things that non-traumatized people say they enjoy. I remember I first shared with Chase, when I get really, really relaxed, then I want to scream. I want to, like, stop it. I can't stay in that space. When I said that, he said, really? I live for that feeling, right? So it's the difference between a traumatized person and somebody who's not. People who are not traumatized enjoy these activities. These activities for you and I may get us ready for fight flight, because the body says, no, 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 no. Get it. Wait, if you're living in a war zone, you can't sleep. You have to keep one eye open, because if you don't, something's going to happen. The truth is, we're not always in a war zone, even though our brain thinks we are. Okay. So that's where it shows up. And then ready for fight flight, because we're always in it. That makes this slipping into level 4. I should probably put a gradated line here, because then dropping into level 4 and being triggered is super easy if you're always ready to be triggered. So I wanted to add this so that you're aware. And what I want you to do is to start to focus on paying attention. Pay attention to the tension that's here. Are you clenching your jaw? Are you pushing your chin back? Are you tight in the shoulders? I've shared with you before that I used to make myself bleed as a child. I did that all the way until I was 30 years old. So I know that if I start like pulling on a little cuticle, that's a warning sign for me. Oh, I'm in ready for fight flight. Let me stop and breathe. Right. So I want you to start paying attention to those little signs that you're in ready for fight flight, and start giving yourself permission to just breathe. Even if it's 30 seconds at a time, breathe. Do what you need to do to start to become aware. Feelings will come up. When they come up and you're in ready for fight flight, it'll be much easier for you to look at it objectively than when you're actually triggered. So that's what I wanted to add for today. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll see you in the next lesson next week. Bye-bye.